Hello, everyone. Welcome to Life Boost here. My name is Ryan Barrio, and I'd like to thank you guys all for watching my channel. I'm available to be seen on over 35 podcasting channels and 10 social media platforms. Today, I'm speaking with a beautiful woman located from Oshawa, Ontario, and she is a globally certified traumatic stress informed educator, certified massage therapist, and craniosacral therapist, author, and educator for those within the massage therapy industry. She has been in the world of massage therapy for over 28 years and helping individuals live their day to day life, having the ability to provide human touch and truly repair problems, emotions, and fears. She has a huge passion on helping others and saving lives. She has written 2 books and they are available to purchase on her website. This woman has been through several traumatic experiences in her lifestyle and has overcome them in a positive way. She is going to be telling us today about her story and how she is living her ultimate dreams. She has helped individuals mentally, physically, and spiritually by providing her expertise within the field of therapy. She has been making a difference within the world of trauma, truly an inspirational woman and someone that is providing beautiful change in the world we are living in today. All of her details will be in the description below of what she is more about if you are more interested. I would love to introduce my personal friend, Martez Schembri-Diskey. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Ryan. Thank you. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's
Thank
it's
you.
it's an amazing time to be able to talk about emotions and talk about fears and what's going on with the pandemic and everything that's going around us is just so many things going on, right? And the first thing first is that I would love to learn more about you and where you came from. What made you get into the world of massage therapy?
Well, I kind of got into massage after a car accident that I was involved in 1987. I was in a head-on collision, and where most of the right side of my body was broken. So I kind of got propelled into literally a crash course in therapy. So before that, I was actually designing clothes and furniture at that time. So not in my scope at all. So I ended up having to do a lot of surgeries and a lot of therapy, and as a result decided to go back to school to become a massage therapist, because I learned a great deal when I was going through all the different therapies and the different types of modalities, and learning a lot about the different therapists. And I felt that, having gone through it myself, that I could then help others, because I could truly understand what they were going through in their rehabilitation. And during that time too, I had gone for a few years, not realizing I was having all these symptoms. And it wasn't until I went into massage college and studying post-traumatic stress disorder and learning about the signs and the symptoms that I realized, as I was writing each one down, I realized, oh my God, I have that, I have that. And so that began my journey into post-traumatic stress, because it was bittersweet. It was great because it finally gave me context to what I had been experiencing. But back then it wasn't as well understood or known about as it is now. So there's been a lot of change, because back then it was very much thought of as just being mostly with military personnel, veterans, and so on, and not so much recognize that it was other traumas that could occur, like car accidents or other injuries or traumas or violences that can occur that can bring that on. So, so it's led me on my path to helping. Started out to help myself, but then it became about helping to heal, helping others in their healing process and their healing journey.
It's very beautiful to hear that perspective from jumping in from the experiences of your car accident and going through several injuries, overcoming that mentally and physically, and trying to get the proper services that you need. And we're told in society that, the only way to really get help nowadays is by going to a doctor, by going to these resources, right? But there's so many other resources out there that can truly make us more successful in the field. And it's good to have a good understanding of that because what your story and what you're offering is very beautiful. It shows that there's more to life than just the education behind something, right? You're able to
Mhm.
articulate it, explain it, and actually change people through actions, right?
Absolutely.
And there's positive things that you have been doing. What has been some of the new things that you've been conducting?
Well, one of the things that I learned very early on for myself is that I recognized that it wasn't just about treating my physical symptoms, but also treating my mind and my spirit as well. And I recognized very early an integrative approach that I needed. And as I became a therapist, I recognized how important that was to have an integrative approach. Because we can't separate the mind, the body, and the spirit. We are all interconnected. Um, so doing it in a body oriented way, right? So it's helped me greatly, having learned it firsthand. And it wasn't just that one accident. Over the course of the next about 20 years, I actually had 4 car accidents. So I'll often say that I was quadruple blind tested in this method of this integrated approach through massage therapy, craniosacral therapy, and more recently with TRE. So they are all integrative approaches, which are really, really important. And I see lots of great transformation as a result of that.
Nice, and it's very
Yeah.
beautiful to see. And what have you been learning in TRE? TRE in particular is trauma releasing exercises. Would you like
Tension.
to explain more about that? Sorry about that.
Absolutely. That's okay. It's tension or trauma releasing exercises. So basically, TRE is a set of 7 exercises that I teach people on how to release stress and trauma that gets stored in the body. In our musculature, we call it the issues are in the tissues. And what happens is that our body starts to go into this chronic state of protection and defensiveness. And our stress system, our sympathetic nervous system gets activated. So what TRE does, when I first learned about it, um, I was just, I knew right away, it resonated with me. And from my very first session, I could see the great difference that it made in my body, my mind, and my spirit, that I knew I needed to work with other people and learn this and teach them. Because what's beautiful is that it helps to bring on the end stage of the stress response. The stress response has an activation where we get, there's a trigger, then we either fight, flight. If we can't fight or flight, we tend to go into freeze. And then when that freeze state, we have all kinds of stress hormones, adrenaline, cortisol, norepinephrine, noradrenaline. And at the end of that, when we start to come out of that stress cycle, this is a very primal reflex response in our body. It's the end stage of that stress cycle. It's in all mammals. This primal response is more readily used in animals. If you've ever seen a dog or a cat in a thunderstorm and they're shaking, that's called a neurogenic tremor. It's a therapeutic shaking or release. And oftentimes that shaking can get misinterpreted as being cold, having weak muscles, or being in shock. When in actual fact, what it's doing is it's releasing the stress and trauma from that experience. And so when the shaking happens, the body is releasing and discharging those stress hormones from our body. Our muscles are starting to reset from a chronic state of contraction, releasing, fasciculating, oscillating, releasing. And then it's also basically resetting our nervous system, because then the brain tells the body, okay, the stress or trauma is over, you're safe now, it's safe to now to relax. And so it takes us out from our sympathetic nervous system, our stress response, into our parasympathetic nervous system, which is also known as our craniosacral system. That's where our immune system and all those systems of resting, digestion, reproduction, repair start, where that operates. So when we come out of that stress system and we start to go back into our restorative system, that's when we have better sleep, better digestion, better functioning of our body, and also our immune system comes online. So that's when our body starts to repair. So this is a great method for helping release deep tension and trauma from our body. And the beautiful thing, especially with TRE, is that it comes from the primal part of our brain, the reptilian part of our brain. So you don't have to go back into the experience or talk about it, because it's really a body oriented modality. And that's what really kind of, grabbed my attention when I first learned about it and first experienced it.
Yeah, it's extremely unique to hear your perspective and being educated by you about these techniques and being able to apply them in my everyday life. And it's great to have that physical feeling of positivity, the feeling of all the negative emotions being released from the body. It's something very easy that you can do on your spare time. It's something that we can do for only 15, 20 minutes out of our day. And we do this about maybe 3, 4 times a week, and it takes that time to really release out of your body and to take that stress and just to understand that you do got to take that time for you. You got to take that time to release all the other
Yeah.
barriers and boundaries that are going on in your lifestyle. We are always so stressed from the 9 to 5 job, having a family, supporting a family, being a father, being a mother, and also the barriers of a lot of things that are going on around us,
Hmm.
such as what's going on with the pandemic, right? And
Yes.
since I've been doing these TRE techniques that you have taught me, it has really benefited my life in a very good way because I am a first responder and I do go into traumatic events, traumatic situations. And I found that for
Yes.
me, that when I was doing these techniques consistently on a consistent basis, I found that my stress levels were much more reduced when I was going to work. My upper back and my neck was not as tense, not as tight, and my brain wasn't foggy. It was able to kind of be able to focus on the present and be able to say, hey, okay, am I making a conscious decision when I'm going to work? And it's just something that was so easy in my lifestyle that I could apply with because it's simple, it's easy, it's quick. And you can also do it with your partner. You can also make it a couples therapy for your partner and make it something that can be beneficial for your family, something that can actually be beneficial for everyone. Because at the end of the day, everybody goes through traumatic situations, not just first responders, but everybody goes through traumatic situations. Everybody has a story that is held into them. And the best thing that you said is that you don't even need to talk about it. You don't even need to share your story. And if you want to not share it, that's up to you. But if you want to and share that story to make yourself more healthier, that's
Mm.
up to you. But that's
Yeah,
the yeah. Sorry,
it's
you were
not a
saying.
requirement because it's basically a series of 7 exercises, and we basically kind of stretch and fatigue. There's a certain sequence that we do, that basically stimulate those muscles, especially the muscles that get activated in stress and trauma or fight, flight, and freeze. And so we're helping to bring on this discharge of this energy. And the beauty is we also teach how to self-regulate. So self-regulating is being able to stop and start these therapeutic tremors, or we call them shakes as well, or vibes. Sometimes I call them good vibes.
Yeah.
Um, and so you're basically able and learning how to regulate the sensory uh, impulses and the sensory stimulation that you're getting from your body. Because sometimes what can happen is that once your system can get activated or triggered, we have this influx of sensation. And from sensation, we get into the emotion, and it just is really big, and a lot of sensory and emotional information, oftentimes too much to track. So what we typically in trauma, so with these exercises, what we do is we teach how to self-regulate, to modulate, to be able to stop and start. And this basically tells your brain that you're in control. And the more that you do this, your brain starts to trust more the process. And what happens is your body's own innate wisdom will start to release in areas that it knows it needs to release. So sometimes you can have little small kind of micro tremorings, little movements, or sometimes they can be larger. But the majority of time, it's always been, in my experience, very soothing, very relaxing. Right? It's not because you learn how to pace it, and it doesn't overwhelm yourself or your system, as you know, right? You could probably speak more to that sensation.
Oh yeah. And just being able to be in that comfort zone and just saying, hey, you can take your time. You don't need to rush within this. And it's not an exercise where you're supposed to feel pain or discomfort. It's an
Right.
exercise to actually feel the emotions and to actually feel more of a therapeutic side to the exercise, right? And doing the form and the technique is essential. And
Yes.
and you were explaining a lot about that. And My other few questions about TRE is what are some other cool facts that TRE has been discovered? What other countries have been discovered within
Oh,
this? What are some cool facts about it?
well, actually, TRE is a global organization, and it's kind of newer to North America, but it's in Australia, it's in Brazil, it's in China, it's all over through Europe. And in Brazil, in fact, it is actually part of their government funded healthcare system, like our provincial healthcare system. It is part of that. And they train healthcare providers um, to deliver this to their patients. It was brought into by Dr. Marcello, forgive me because I'm forgetting his last name at this moment. And he introduced it with youth, and it just grew from there. And they even now do TRE in the parks. But also in Australia, the Olympic team uses that part of their recovery and performance enhancement for their athletes. That's part of their training now. But it is all over the world. Throughout all the different countries. And as I said, it's newer here. And I've been working with first responders here. And the nice thing is first responders have to, you know, they're in a lot of chronic traumatic situations and have to override a lot of their stress responses. And so when I've worked with first responders, one of the first things that I usually get is that they feel the change right away. And the beauty with TRE is that once you've learned these exercises, it's great to do all 7 exercises, but sometimes I've actually had a paramedic that I'm working with and a firefighter where they've gotten triggered, they've kind of stepped aside and been able to do one of the exercises to be able to discharge that tension in that moment, rather than that their body having to accommodate it and then go back to it later. So it's the responses have been incredible. And the changes that I see, even from the beginning of a session, and I often say I'd love to have before and after pictures, because one of the most rewarding things for me, not only just seeing how the different people's bodies release their tension in a very, very relaxing, enjoyable way, but afterwards, when you see their faces and their bodies, their shoulders are down, their faces are much softer. You can see their jaw is so much less tense. And then also one of the people that I've been working with who had, very chronic neck issues, I can see more flexibility, happening. I can see one of my other firefighters that I work with, his posture is now opening up because, we tend to be in this guarded, contracted state. And you see the physiological changes as well as the emotional, spiritual changes in a person the more that they do the work. And the nice thing is you can do it together. We get together every week or so, and we do it online in a group, but we've also come together to do it as well. And also being able to build that community to support each other online. So with the COVID, it's really been able to open it up to be able to offer TRE on Zoom to people all over.
Yeah, and it's good that we're using these resources that we have with technology to really expand the love for TRE, because the exercises you've even said have helped paramedics, firefighters, first responders learning how to get out of that flight or flight response and putting their bodies back into
Yes.
that parasympathetic nervous system and being able to actually be in a relaxed state. And it's really beautiful that you're doing this and you're starting to create groups and awareness online, and you're starting to create change in that method. What is some of your other visions that you would like to see with TRE?
One of the things that I'm in the process of working on is creating a pilot project to do some research with first responders with TRE, and to be able to track groups of first responders and track their progress. And as a result, what I also want to do is to be able to create community where we can support each other and do, classes. Because the thing is with trauma, the way we have to heal trauma as well is doing things slowly. We're so used to being on all the time, and healing happens when it's slower because our safety can get more engaged that way. But what I also want to do is to be able to see, I would love to see how TRE to be brought into different agencies of fire, paramedic, a police, to even be able to start being able to have training for new hires, new recruits, and so on, and to learn this very early on. Because if we can develop this, because the beauty of this is that once you've learned it, this is a tool that's yours. It's a modality that you can do. As I said, you can do the seven exercises, but once you get proficient at self-regulation, you can even just do it with a few of the exercises or even one exercise. So this will, down the road, my dream is to help hopefully reduce compassion fatigue, vicarious trauma, burnout, that kind of thing. Because in first responders, the rate of burnout is too high. And for me, I feel it's my passion, my honor to be able to help those who help so many. When there's something like this that you can do and you feel the results immediately, then hopefully burnout and compassion fatigue, hopefully one day could be something that, we all remember when that used to happen, right? Hopefully it's a tool that we can get to everybody. There are so many different, I can go on and talk about this forever, but there's so many different areas that it can help. There's studies being done with people using Terry for MS. There's all kinds of different neurological studies. They're doing studies with children, with adolescents. It's just so, the breadth and the scope is so vast. But for me, my area is to help those who help others, the first responders, the frontline workers, especially through this pandemic. The amount of stress and hypervigilance in our systems has just amped up, and the burnout rate is so high. I'm hoping to be able to get these into agencies and then have trainings for people, first responders, to become providers, so that they can then take it out to their communities.
Yeah, and like that's beautiful, right? This is the things that we do need to create positive change within the world we live in today, and especially in Canada and North America, and really trying to change the perspective within the world, just saying, hey, a job is a job, but you need to take that time to love yourself, take that time to really
Yeah.
relax and really digest what's going on in your body. And like you were even saying, right? The people that are helping others are still suffering. They're still suffering burnout. They're still suffering all the traumatic symptoms that nobody ever wants to deal with, right? And by you sharing the world your techniques, you're going to create so much change and you're going to help a lot of lives. And that's why I invited you on this show. It's because you are genuinely
Yes.
a person that wants to help and save lives. And that's what this is all about. And it's very beautiful what you're doing. You're really creating positive change. And it's so
Thank
nice
you.
to hear that there's someone out there that's actually going to take that next step and say, yes, I'm going to do this. Instead of us just sitting back and looking back and just saying, hey, we have a problem here, but I don't know what to do. You're the one that's actually saying, well, I may not know all the answers, but I'm going to find the answers and I'm going to help someone.
Mhm.
I'm going to reach out there. I'm going to reach for that success. And by you even doing that and for you stepping up for that, you're saving a lot of lives. And I really do thank you for that.
Well, I think what happens is that when you go through trauma and traumatic experiences, I think part of what they call post-traumatic growth or post-traumatic wisdom or post-traumatic learning is that when you come out of something like that, oftentimes there's a transformation that happens. And when you come out of it, you start to see things from a different perspective. And also, I find that you want to then help others to, on their healing journey, help them go through what you've just experienced, help them to make that path a little easier for them. And part of what I do is I also educate on compassion fatigue and burnout. And I say to people that think of it not just as self-care. Self-care is important, but often self-care can get misunderstood as being, going and getting pampered, or, not saying anything wrong with that. But if you start to think of self-care, first of all, it's like that warning that you get when you go on a plane. When that oxygen mask comes down, you put the oxygen mask on yourself first, and then you're able to tend to others. So if you think of that oxygen mask, not only just as self-care, but as what's called SEUS, which stands for safe, effective use of self. to make sure that you are in your best form in body, mind, and spirit, to be able to be there for yourself, for your family, for your workers, and those that you serve. Because if you don't take care of yourself, then all those others suffer in the process. So part of my goal with the TRE too is I'm also um, a co-founder of a new online institute that's going to be opening up very shortly, called the Trauma Recovery and Integration Institute, where we teach about trauma-informed care, but we also give practical tools and show people, whether they just want to learn about it or want to learn to become certified in doing the work. And TRE will be a component of that, learning how to do that, but learning the neurophysiology, learning about how stress and trauma affects your body, your mind, and your spirit, and giving you real tools that you can use for yourself. But also, if you want to take it into your practice, they're very applicable to bringing to your clients as well. So it's educating people on trauma. We all have a nervous system, but sadly, we're not taught enough about it. So this is the big part of what our institute is to therefore do, is to help people to understand what's going on in our body. How do we react or respond in trauma? Because typically when we're in our sympathetics, that's a reactive state. But when we're in our parasympathetics, also known as our craniosacral system, that's a more calm state where we're able to respond to things. There's a difference between responding and reacting. And so the more that you do these things like TRE, you're resetting your nervous system, where you're rebalancing it back to where it should be. Our default should be in this calmer state of our parasympathetic or craniosacral system, not this sympathetic system. And unfortunately, with the last year and a half with the pandemic, that has amped up our systems even more so. So we're always in the state of readiness. What's going to happen next? And to be able to have these self-care tools, these modalities such as TRE, learning about your nervous system and how to be able to self-regulate, bring that down and bring balance. And then teaching that also to your family members. You know, if we can all shake together, we will all heal, much quicker. Getting this stress and trauma out of our body rather than it coming out in, explosive ways, or one little thing can just kind of set people off because their body has not the capacity to contain it. So TRE is a great way to be able to slowly, gently, and in a healthy, safe way to really be able to release that stress from our body in a gentle, loving, respectful manner.
Yeah, no, like we couldn't say it even more, right? It's beautiful to see the connections and see your passion behind helping people and relating that towards TRE, and really explaining the history about it and understanding where everything comes from it, right? We need to be more proactive about our mental health, more proactive about self-care. And by doing these small routines, like you said, getting to know your nervous system could be a really big change for your health. And what are some other things that you would recommend for yourself in regards to other ways of care besides TRE for your mental or your physical health?
Our breath, even as simple as our breath. Most of us don't breathe, or we breathe here. It's called apical breathing. We don't breathe down into our bellies. And most of us are breathing through our mouth. When you breathe in through your nose and slowly out through your nose for twice as long or 3 times as long, what you're actually doing is you're activating your vagus nerve. Your vagus nerve is the longest nerve that goes basically from your brain, from your belly to your brain. It's our brain, gut brain connection. And when that gets stimulated, that activates your parasympathetic system, your calming nerve part of your nervous system. It helps to bring it down. So just breathing in through your nose slowly and out through your nose for twice as long, even that will help. A very simple thing that I always share with my clients is 4 simple things. Just check what your hands are doing. Most of us have our hands clenched together. Even just if you're sitting at a desk, place your hands with your palms upward. That opens up your chest. It externally rotates your arms, so it opens up your chest, allows you to breathe a little bit more deeper. Raising your chin just up, even just a centimeter, right? Putting your tongue on the roof of your mouth, and then adding a smile. And you'll notice you'll start to feel this letdown. So what you've just done with those 4 simple changes in your body posture is put your body into an open position, which tells your brain that you're in a calm state. So then that unconscious anxiety, which keeps your muscles in chronic contraction, can start to relax and let go. And so the more that your body starts to let go, the more it trusts being in this relaxed state. Most of us have gotten used to being in that chronic stress state, or that having all that stress hormones coursing through our system and needing, you know, that kind of stimulus. So it's a matter of learning how to kind of calm your system. You could even take, I've got it here actually, a hand towel, roll it up into a cylinder, like a roll like this, place it along your spine, place it on your chair and your desk and lean back, and that's going to open up your chest. You can even take that and lay it on the floor, again, with that open body posture, again, to open up, to relax, to help bring more air into the lungs. So these are just some simple, easy things that can be done anywhere, but the breath is key. Check out what you're doing in your jaw, because when you clamp down, clench your jaw, that activates the upper 1/3 of the muscles from your head to your mid back, contracts them. It also stimulates, activates your
Wow.
sympathetic nervous system. So just that simple, clenching, or right, that will activate your nervous system and your muscles. And also notice what's happening in your shoulders. Are your shoulders up to your ears? Bring them down. Breathe. Take those moments, those little, check in, what I call a body break. Notice what's going on. Tune into your body. Most of us are here, right? And having that, try to integrate more. Okay, what's going on in my body as well? So it's just learning. And, it's like anything else. The more you do it, the more automatic it becomes and the more second nature it becomes. But when you start to relax, your body will start to go, oh, this actually feels good. And, oh, I don't have to be on that, hyper vigilant all the time. I can work more effectively and, respond rather than react to things.
Oh my goodness. Like I just learned like 5 different things at one time, and it's awesome. It's really cool to be able to learn something new every day, and doing these simple techniques is very applicable and very easy to do in any workplace or anywhere that you're working. And it's very doable for you to do these things on a daily basis. And I really thank you for sharing those small tips, because we're always so like, yeah, we need to focus on the exact food we're eating. We need to focus on how many hours of sleep we get. But for you, it was like, no, it's just very simple things that you can do in your life to just change, but in a positive way that doesn't have to make detrimental changes to your lifestyle. So it's great that you're able to provide this information to me and to the people that are watching my show. It's beautiful to hear your perspectives and hear your opinions about massage therapy and anxiety, and learning about some of the background of what you've been going through for the last 28 years. And it's been a pleasure being able to speak with you on my podcast, being able to even
Mhm.
talk to you. What is your goals for yourself? What do you want to do to drive yourself forward as an individual? What do you do when you wake up every day? What motivates you to keep going?
My motivation's always been to help others. That's always been my primary goal, is to help others, especially those in the healing profession, because as those in positions of first responders, nurses, doctors, and so forth, healthcare, social workers, teachers, even anybody in helping professions, they tend to give out, give out, give out, and then they drain themselves, right, and become burnt out because they're not giving back to themselves. And so for me, it's about educating people. It's self-care, but it's also self-love. And if it's not just for you, but think of it for yourself and for your family. So that's always my goal. And typically what I try to do, even when I first wake up in the morning, I give gratitude, because that even starts to put my mind in that positive perspective. Because when we're in that state of fear all the time, our brain tends to think in terms of negative biases, worst case scenarios, black and white thinking, catastrophic thinking, or worse, or life and death thinking, which most of the time, that starts the anxiety and all those other things. But most of the times those things aren't happening. So by starting off, even in the morning, by giving gratitude, or I do journaling, that's another thing. But I also have been incorporating TRE, and getting out in the outside as much as possible. I try to get out even in the evenings and try to sit out in starlight. Being in nature, your body energy will harmonize with your environment. And that's why people like to be out in nature, because it calms us. It nourishes our system and balances and recalibrates our nervous system. So it's incorporating that into your day. And it really doesn't take time. It just takes effort. And you don't have to start with a whole list, just a little bit each day. You'll build basically a new neural pathway, and then it will become ingrained. And the more that you do these things, then your body will and brain will have a whole network of that supports that. And these things will be natural and will default to those, rather than those things that keep us in that state of contraction and fear and anxiety, to be in that state of our parasympathetics or craniosacral system of curiosity, openness, playfulness, the place of responding, right? Where we can be fully, freely, and fearlessly able to be who we are in the world, not in this contracted, fear-based state. So that's what I want to do, is to help people recognize that you can do this. If I can do it, anybody can do it, because I had 4 car accidents, diagnosed 4 times with PTSD. I often say I was quadruply blind tested to learn this over and over again, because these are definitely things that do work. And each time it brought me out of it much quicker, having learned the tools. So my goal and my passion is to help others learn these tools to help themselves and to heal. So we heal one person at a time, and I call it heal the healers. That's my true goal.
Extremely beautiful.
Yeah. And we're all healers. Heal thyself.
Yeah, no, it's incredible to even get the privilege to speak to you today. It's the privilege to even learn the advice that I've even taken in, understanding that, you know, even during a pandemic, during what's going on in the world that we're living in today, there's always a positive thing that we can talk about, and there's always positive change that we can provide. And it's always us that can make that change. And you're really making that change for everyone. And I would like to personally thank you for being on my show and being a part of my my podcasting channel. It's been very special to be able to take your advice and really share the world what you offer. It's been an absolute pleasure.
My pleasure as well, and my honor. Thank you so much, Ryan, for inviting me. You have a wonderful podcast, and I wish you all the very best, because you're reaching so many people. And I thank you. We all thank you for your contribution.
Thank you.
Your wonderful contribution. Thank you.